Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. In today's video, I wanted to go over a few cards that have been really popular in some 5 builds in Spreading Flames, Belittle, and Art of War, and I wanted to kind of talk about their use cases and where they're good and where they're bad and why they're not always a plug and play card. This is a video that I talked about in the Discord with a couple of the members we have. So if you want to go in the Discord, it's linked down below. Check it out. We have like 120 members already, doing really well. So if you're a Ninja player or a Fab player, definitely check that out. But yeah, I wanted to go over these 3 cards because these 3 cards are super popular in Fi right now. But I want to show you all that they're not always plug and play, and they're not actually always good cards. Now, I'm not saying you should or should not run them, because I run Spreading Flames in my deck currently, and I'm trying to make it work, but I don't run Belittle or Art of War currently. But I want to show you all why they do have some pretty big weaknesses in some ways, and why they're not the most consistent cards. All 3 of these cards are high ceiling, really low floor cards, in my opinion, at least in the use case of Fi, right? And we'll talk about that here in a second. So we'll back on up here. We'll put Belittle and Art of War over here first. We'll talk about Spreading Flames. We're going to put Spreading Flames in Arsenal because we're going to be acting like we're playing it from Arsenal. So Spreading Flames reads, for anyone that's not aware, Draconic attacks you control have +1 while their base is less than the number of chain links you control. Draconic chain links you control. So if you play an attack and its base power is less than the links, it gets a +1 buff. So if you play this outright, we're going to say we don't have a tunic resource initially. If you play this out, you only pitch a blue for it, and it comes in for 3. And then now on Chainlink 2, if you have a 1 power cost attack like Inflame, then it'll get this card. Inflame would get a +1 buff, or if you had a Phoenix Flame, it would get a +1 buff. But if you have a 2 power or higher attack on Chainlink 2, it won't get any buff. Chainlink 3, same thing. 2 power less, it gets a buff. Chainlink 4, 3 power less, it gets a buff. Okay, so why this card's a little bit awkward, number one, most hands, it's only going to buff maybe 2 attacks, probably 1 attack. Because I have a typical hand here, right, which is Spreading Flames from Arsenal. Then you have a you could replace this with anything, but a 1 cost attack like Soaring Strike, could be a Mounting Anger, could be a Dust Runner Outlaw, whatever have you. A 0 cost attack like Brand with Cinderclaw, which is pretty good, and then a 0 cost rupture card like Lava Burst, which this is the most ideal, literally the most ideal rupture card you could have with Spreading Flames. So the way this turn would normally go is, because I have this 1 cost attack in here and I don't have a tunic resource, I now have to make a decision. Do I swing with Emberblade or do I not swing with Emberblade? Because if I play out Soaring Strike, I can't swing with Emberblade, right? So you look at damage and what you're going to be put out. Emberblade would be another 3, bringing you to 6. Brand with Cinderclaw being another 3, bringing you to 9. And then finally Lava Burst, which would get the +1 buff from this, would come in for 6, that's 15. Or you could do Soaring Strike for 4, so you're at 7. Cinder for 3, which is 10. And then again, Lava Burst equals 16. So Soaring Strike's the better option. However, if you play this out, you go down to 1 resource. Then you play Brand with Cinderclaw. Then you would Fi ability, right? Go get a Phoenix Flame, play it. Then you play Lava Burst. Pretty decent hand, right? So you're doing 3, then you're doing 4 from Soaring Strike. You're dealing 3 from Brand with Cinderclaw. Then you're getting a +1 buff from Spreading Flames on this flame. So you're coming in for 2 here. And then you're coming in finally for 6 on Lava Burst. So 6, 8, 8. Gosh, I can't do math. 11. 11 plus 4 is 15. 18 damage turn off 5 links. Pretty decent, right? Not bad. However, the only attacks that Spreading Flames buffed was attacks 4 and 5, because Cinderclaw doesn't get buffed because it's the same amount as the chain links you control. Soaring Strike didn't get buffed. And then Phoenix Flame and Lava Burst get buffed. The problem with this is they probably stopped Mask either right here or right here. And now these 2, you're just basically doing 2 more points of damage, which not bad, sure, whatever. And maybe if you couple this with a Stubby Hammer's turn, then all of a sudden this becomes really, really good. But overall, the reason that this card is a little bit awkward for me, at least, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying awkward, is because it forces you to make a decision if you have a 1 power cost card in your hand. Because now you can't swing with Emberblade because this costs 1. Because this card costs 1, if you have another 1 cost card in your hand, you now have to make a decision, right? Now that's a okay scenario. Now let's look at a bad scenario for this hand, which is you draw, it's an arsenal, but you draw into something like this. And let's see if I can find the other one that I had. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have it. Phoenix Flame goes in here. We'll keep our blue, right? Let's say we have a Mounting Anger and a Soaring Strike. Yep, perfect. Okay, so let's say we have this, and then just for argument's sake, we'll keep the Brand with Cinderclaw in here. And then we will keep, and then we have the blue, right? So you had a 4-card hand with this. Okay, so here's a bad scenario, right? Is you have your blue that's in your hand, and you have 2 1-cost cards in your hand, like Soaring Strike and Mounting Anger. This could even be a breaking point, right? Which would be a little bit better. And they're all 4 power attacks except for Brand with Cinderclaw. So now you are not going to buff one of your attacks, I think. So Spreading Flames, this is with no tunic. You pitch a blue for Spreading Flames. Now you really have to make, again, you have to make a decision. You can't really swing with Emberblade, because if you do, then you can't play either one of these attacks out, or you only can play one because you'd basically pitch for them. So you're going to decide, okay, let's play this then. You know, you'd probably play Mounting Anger first, because you'd want it to be able to possibly buff your something else, but you can't really. So that comes in for 4, not buffed. Then you play maybe a Soaring Strike, right? Another 4, not buffed. Then you'd play the Brand with Cinderclaw, which would be buffed, so you get a +1 buff. Then you go get a Phoenix Flame, and again, +1 buff. So it did not buff until these 2 here, right? The issue with this is now, again, you did not buff either one of your good attacks. You only buffed your crappy attack, right? Or more crappy attacks, right? And it was after Mask. So the only way that what I'm trying to show is the only way that Spreading Flames is really, really useful is 2 things. One, if you have all 0-cost cards in your hand when it's played from Arsenal, and this is if it's played from Arsenal. This is even in a better situation. If Spreading Flames was in hand, this would be even worse. It only buffs your really small attacks, and it only buffs cards that most of the time don't even matter to be buffed, because it's after Mask has been blocked. Like, if you could get the 6 links here, then maybe, right, it would be useful, because now you buff these 2 and you have a buffed up for Mask, right? But again, this is ideal scenario, and now that's if it's from Arsenal, right? Like, if I put Soaring Strike over here, and all of a sudden Spreading Flames is in my hand, and now it looks like this. Now we're even in a weirder spot, because now I got to pay 1 for Spreading Flames, pay 1 for this, and right, I can't even swing with Ember, and now only have a 4-card hand. And the only thing that was really buffed was, you know, you'd probably even do it like this. And that says Phoenix Flames here. You do this, and then you'd have to play all 3 of them out in order to go get that Phoenix Flame potentially, or you pay 1 to go get Phoenix Flame, and then you do this. No matter what, like, it's not ideal, because you're still only buffing these 2 attacks, and that's after Mask has already been blocked. So the card, I think, the reason the card is good, right? Now, I wanted to kind of go through this, and we'll speed up this one, because I apologize, this first card's taking a while, but it's really in depth. Is like the best hand for this card would be this. So you have this, you have this, you have a Tunic resource, right? This is why people want this card, in my opinion. And then you have a blue. So you have all 3 of these cards with Phoenix form. So you have a Tunic resource. You use your Tunic resource to play Spreading Flames, right, for 3. Then you play Inflame. It would get a +1 buff. You would go get a Phoenix Flame, right? Yep. Then you play out your Phoenix Flame. It gets a +1 buff, right? Now you still haven't dealt or had to pay for anything. Then you pitch 1 to play Flame Call Awakening. Go get another Phoenix Flame. Flame Call Awakening gets a +1 buff. This is what was in my 45 damage 5 turn. And then you play the second Phoenix Flame out. And then you Phi ability, right? You go get your last Phoenix Flame. Everything's been buffed so far. And then you play Phoenix Form for 5, 6, right? 6 go again. And if you pop Stubbies for this, all of a sudden it's coming for 4. This is, you know, coming in for 3. This is coming in for 3. This is coming in for 5. This is coming in for 3. This is coming in for 3. This is coming in for 6, 7, right? So that is the God turn. That's the turn you'd want, right? At that point, you're dealing 4. You're dealing 4, 7, 10, 10, 15, 18, 21, 28 damage turn over 7 links, now threatening to draw 3 cards. that's the God turn, and that's why people want this. So what I'm trying to say is, if you play this card, you kind of have to play a full set of Inflames and a full set of Flame Call Awakenings, and really try to get these 2 cards in hand if you can, or at least one of them in hand when you play Spreading Flames. If you do that, then yes, there's really good merit to this. But these still only come in for 3 with Stubby Hammers, which means it can be blocked with 1 card from hand. So essentially, they can block your Inflame to prevent Mask. Let these 2 then block Flame Call Awakening will come in for 4, so they probably want to block that because they know you're going to play a Phoenix Flame. Block that Phoenix Flame again to prevent Mask. So now you essentially have dealt, what, 4, 7, 11, 14, still a good turn, 21 damage turn of them not blocking. So that's the dream turn, and that's why this card is really wanted, right? But overall, you know, that card's interesting. You just have to play around it, and you have to build a deck that is specifically for it, right? And I just wanted to show that because this card is not plug and play. You can't just play this card. It has to be played with other cards to make it good. And it has to have a deck that's somewhat built around a pop-off turn like that, okay? So that's card 1. I wanted to just go over that. Card 2 is Belittle. I won't go as in-depth on this. Basically, this card to me is good on Tunic, but if you do not have a Tunic resource, it's not good. That's in Fi, because it's not Draconic, and it's a 1 for 3. 1 for 3 is already below rate for Fi, like very below rate. The only 1 for 3 I have in my deck is Spreading Flames, quite literally. So the reason that this card is weird is because it only is useful when you have hands like this. So you have 2 1-cost cards, including Belittle most of the time, and you're able to play this, go get a blue minnow, then you're able to swing with, you can't swing with Emberblade yet because this Belittle's not Draconic. So now you've got to play Soaring Strike out next, or whatever your 1-cost is. You have 1 resource flow, and you pitch the second blue, which is minnow, so you can swing with Emberblade, go get a Phoenix Flame, and then play Lava Burst. So most of the time with Fi, you only need 3 resources. Most of the time. You maybe need 4, right? But it doesn't really do as much as you would think. Sometimes it might help you get off 1 more attack, but it also screws you over a little bit because you can't play Emberblade after it. You have to play an attack, which now makes it an awkward decision, because now if they don't block this attack, then you can't swing with Emberblade on the 3rd because it won't trigger Mask. So you have to play something else, right? So if the person was really not smart, but let's just say they made a different play with this hand, right? And you had a 4-card hand, no Tunic, you play Belittle, you had to pitch for it, you have 2 floating, they know you're not going to swing with Emberblade because it doesn't have Go Again, so you play out your 1-cost attack, you have 1 floating, you have that blue minnow. Let's say they let that hit because they're like, okay, it's a 4-cost, 4 power, I'm not gonna go after it, I'm just gonna wait to see what he has next. And let's say they don't let it block. Well, now you literally are screwed because you can't do anything else to get Mask. You really can't. The best thing you can do is use your last resource to go get a Phoenix Flame and play your Phoenix Flame for 1 to try to hit Mask. You still have that blue minnow. Then you Emberblade with the blue minnow resources, then play Lobbers. So you can do that. But again, it makes the play lines very awkward with Belittle. The only time Belittle is very, very good is off a Tunic resource. Off a Tunic resource and a 5-card hand. So you have like a Belittle and Arsenal, and then you have like any like good attack, right? We'll just put Brand with Cinderclaw in here. And a 4-card hand, you can use your Tunic resource to play Belittle and go get that minnow. And then you can play out like Brand with Cinderclaw. Then you can pitch to play Emberblade. Then you could use your last resource for Soaring Strike. Then go get a Phoenix Flame. But then even then, like, look, I didn't even need my minnow resource. I literally didn't need it. So like when people are like, Belittle's so good with Tunic, is it though? Because like right here, like I didn't need the minnow resource. I used Belittle as a Tunic, and then I used my last 3 resources from Brand with this. Where Belittle helps you is when you draw a 4 red card hand. That's where it helps you, because you can Tunic off of it, possibly, hopefully, and then go get a minnow, and now you just played out a card and basically gained a blue. I do see where that is useful, but it's very situational, and in bad situations, Belittle's a non-draconic 1 for 3 that really can clunk up your hand depending on what your hand is, or it just doesn't play to your other cards. And if you have cards like maybe Red Hot, or a card like even a card like, or you're wanting to activate Fi's ability or something like that, right? You have to pay more than that. So, because even like with the hand that we just had, Where we have in our hand. I totally forgot. We'll just put this Mountain Anger instead of Sword and Strike. I don't know where I put it. It's over here. So if you play Belittle with no Tunic resource, pitching a blue, and then you play Mountain Anger, so you have one floating, you can't go get Phoenix Flame because you only have one Draconic Link. So now that Phoenix Flame is going to cost 2 to go get. So you can't go get it. You literally can't go get it because it's going to cost 2 and you don't have the resources to pay for that. Right? So you're in a really bad shape with this. It really hurts Fi's ability to like use that Phoenix Flame to then like get to your next Draconic Chain Link. So now you're basically forced out to play Lava Burst. You don't have a choice. So that's the reason I don't like Belittle. It clunks up your hand a lot. It doesn't allow you to go get Phoenix Flames as easy. And in my opinion, it's worse than better in most situations. People keep talking about all the ideal, amazing situations for it and not talking about like what it cannot do and what hurts it, right? So that's my thought. Then the final one, we're at 15 minutes here. I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time, is Art of War. Art of War is similar to Belittle, where let's say you arsenal the card and let's say you have a blue in hand, right? Which is what you ideally want. So let's talk about where this card's good first, right? Where this card is good is if you have a Tunic resource, right? So let's say this is your hand, which is a pretty standard hand, right? For him, for Fi, you have a Tunic resource. You use your Tunic resource to play Art of War. You pick +1 banish. With this hand, I'm probably going to banish my 1 cost. I probably want to banish my 1 cost because I want to give Lava Burst go again. So we're probably going to banish Bram with Cinder Claw, draw 2. I have like every card in here, so I can't just draw 2 Well, I could do this. We'll draw 2. It's going to be truly random. Okay, Soaring Strike and Burn Away. Burn Away would not be in this deck. I put every Draconic action. Let's just say we draw into a Phoenix form. So now you have this, and all your attacks are +1, and then you're in a decent spot because now you can, you can start with like a Soaring Strike for 5, pitching a blue. You have 2 floating, right? But even this, like, it's a little bit weird because I drew into another 1 cost. So now I can't really swing with Emberblade. I probably play Soaring Strike for 5 again. 1 resource floating. Use the 1 resource to go play Phoenix Flame for 2. Then we probably play Lava Burst. Or we would have banished Lava Burst, giving it go again with Soaring Strike, right? Like, there's a good way of doing this to where it makes a lot of sense. Where this clogs you really bad is when it is not from Arsenal and you don't have a Tunic resource. This card really hurts because I don't want to play this card. I don't want to just waste it because if I play it, pitching 1, I don't want to choose banish draw 2 because there's an outside chance that I could like banish. Because like in this situation, I'd probably banish this and draw 2, right? Depending on what I draw into, Yellow Cinder Skin, that's not anything. But let's say we draw back into this, right? So now I have 2 resources floating. And then I have this, right? I could play Ronin out for 4, but then now I have to choose between Mountain Anger or Emberblade. You play Mountain Anger for 5, 1 floating, and then you play Emberblade. So it's not bad, but it's just a very awkward. There's times where if you don't have a Tunic resource, it can really clunk your hand up. And I drew into all attacks here because most of the cards in this deck that I had, like this test deck with all the cards, is attacks. But like, let's say with this hand, if I would have banished, drawn 2, and these were the 2 I drew, right? Let's say I would have drawn into a Red Rise from the Ashes and, I don't know, another blue, right? Now you really clogged your hand up. That's why I like to know with what information I have. And if you draw like that, a Red Rise from the Ashes, like you could play it, go get a Phoenix Flame, play your Phoenix Flame out for 4, then, pitch to play Emberblade, then go get this and then play Lava Burst, sure. But like, it's just really awkward, clunky hands sometimes. I'm not saying don't run it. I think running a 2 of is useful. And at the very worst, you can pitch it for something, but it definitely isn't a one-size-fit-all card as good as it is with Ninja. It's the same thing in Katsu. Like there were certain Katsu builds that ran it that were really good and it worked really well. Then there were certain Katsu builds that just did not run the card. It's just a really Ninja to me, in my opinion, and some people agree, some people disagree. If you have a tight Ninja list, you should almost never want to banish a card. Every card's useful. And the reason you don't want to banish it is because you're like, Why would I banish this card when I'm going to draw 2 cards potentially into a non-attack when this card's already useful, right? It's just really interesting. Or you could draw the dreaded 2 non-attacks, and then you're really screwed. Now you have a 3-card hand with 1 attack. It's just really interesting. But so yeah, with these 3 cards, I'm not saying they're bad. I haven't ran Belittle in any of my 5 builds, but I have ran Spreading Flames and Art of War, as most people have seen. So I'm not saying the cards are bad. What I'm saying is, like, you have to make sure you understand what your build is and how you can make the most of your build with these cards. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself, and it's not going to be, and you're going to clunk up your hands, and it's not going to be as efficient as you think. And like, especially with these 2 cards, they're very baity. Whereas, like, you could have one crazy pop off turn with one of these 2 cards. You're like, this card's amazing, and then it clunks up your hand the next 5 turns, 6 times you play it. You're like, but I had that one really good turn. I had this goldfish turn when I played 40 damage. It's like, well, that's cool, but then you also clunked up your hands 5 more times after that, right? So, it's just something to think about. I know this is really in depth, but I just want to kind of give my thoughts on it because I see a lot of people run these cards, and just make sure you understand, like, the good and the bad of these cards. I probably didn't go over everything perfectly because there was a lot of thoughts, but hopefully it made sense to you. If you like this kind of in-depth content, though, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, go to Nerd Flesh Bro Career. Leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game. And hopefully I will see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.